Now, we didn't talk about it last episode because I was a little upset about the fans. But after the Chicago game, Keefe came out, called the team immature, and called the loss against Florida. He called it a week ago a good slap in the face. I think it's quite obvious who he's calling out, and they've talked about it on a couple of shows now. They've talked about it on Leafs Hour. They talked about it on SDP. It's quite obvious that they're calling out Matthews and Marner. I think because those are the guys. Listen, there's only so much John Tavares can do. Now that you don't have Jake Muzzin and you don't have Morgan Riley, most of the leadership is on John Tavares. And I get it. He's your captain. He's your guy. But there's only so much that one man can take. I think the team needs to step it up. You know, they made a really good point on the Steve Dangle podcast, and I'm going to take it because I think it's a really good point.
You source them. It's
to elaborate, just to elaborate on it, that when Patrick Marleau was brought in, he was brought in to not develop, help the younger guys create. They use the word killer instinct. I don't know if that's the word I want to go for, but he was brought in to bring in some type of leadership, build those players leadership wise because they're young, immature, etc., etc. And sure, it seems like, you know what, he became very good friends with them. He did help them. I just don't think he helped them in the way or helped them fully in what the team needed, which is a freaking killer instinct, which I still think this team doesn't have. If they had a killer instinct, this team wouldn't be so inconsistent.
And the killer instinct is that thing of locking a game down and saying, we're going to win this. Right.
And I think it's not that I think the team made a mistake bringing in Marleau. I think the Marleau deal was 1 year too long. I think Dubas knows that. I think everyone up there in upper management knows that the Marleau deal was 1 year too long. I think they brought in the wrong player in the sense that it didn't give them the one thing that they were looking for. The difference between this team and a team like Boston, you look at the young players that came into Boston. You look at Pastrnak, you look at McAvoy. Those two are the big ones that pop out to me. Who were they playing with when they were starting their seeds, starting their growth? They're playing with Patrice Bergeron. They're playing with Marchand. They're playing with Chara. They're playing with Tuukka Rask. You see, these are guys that have killer instinct. They've been through the playoffs. They've been they have that killer instinct that you need to kind of understand what to do. And it seems like this, when all these players came in, who did they have? No one. They had themselves. P.A. Parenteau wasn't even there. The first year that Matthews, Marner, and Nylander played together, most of that team was young. Then you had JVR and Bozak, who have been playing with the Leafs forever. And I'm sorry, I love the guys. They don't have that killer instinct. They went to the playoffs once before they made the playoffs in 2016. I believe both of them were there. On the back end, okay, you have you didn't have anyone with the kill. You had Ron Hainsey. You see what I mean? Like, there was no one set in place there. You bring in Patrick Marleau, great guy. He's great leadership wise. I mean, his skill last year was not what this team needed, and he was playing way too much. They just bring it, and they said they should have went harder after. They should have went harder after someone like Justin Williams, and another name that I think they should have gone harder after, which they didn't bring up, was Joe Thornton.
Yeah,
and
they
Joe,
they
were rumored. There was 2 players that summer who they were going hard after, was Patrick Marleau and Joe Thornton. I would have gone, Joe Thornton is a little bit older. I would have gone after Joe Thornton. He has that killer instinct. Just the beard alone. And it has that. You know what I mean? That's what they needed. And that's what I got from that quote, is that the team doesn't have that killer instinct. The team doesn't understand what it means to lose. Yes, they lost 3 years in a row in the first round, but that's nothing. There's 3 more imagine you have to go through 3 more rounds of that to win a cup. You've lost in the first round 3 times, and that only teaches you so much.
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Because I have heard some Leafs fans saying, and when I hear this, I want to flip a table, and I'm not even a Leafs fan, saying that it wouldn't be the worst thing if they missed. And this is Adam Wild who said this on the Steve Dangle podcast. And I love Adam Wild, but I could not disagree more with him about that. Because then you learn. You don't do so much in the regular season. Like, you need to play in the playoffs to learn how to play in the playoffs.
Here's the thing, though. I understand where he's coming from, because what he's saying is, look at the Tampa Bay Lightning last year. The Tampa Bay Lightning had the best regular season in the world. They got swept in the playoffs, and then they started the season awful. They learned from getting swept in the playoffs. They learned from starting the season poorly. You don't necessarily. You need to understand that you have to give it 100%, 110% every single night, every 82 games of the year. And I know I don't, like, Anthony Stewart says this all the time. It's all about the details. And at the end of the day, he's right. It is all about the details. You have to put into place a mentality in your head is that you have to put in 110%, 82 times of the regular season and every bloody game of the playoffs, because you're never going to get anywhere. You're not. You look at the Boston team. How many years have we been saying that, oh, the Boston Bruins are ready to dip because their players are getting older?
I'd say before there were a few. I think it was the year before they played the Sens. The year the Sens went to the conference finals. A lot of us are saying, "Oh, I don't know about Boston anymore." And then they just said, "Oh, hello there. Do you remember us?"
Right, and it's, you need the killer instinct, and I can't reiterate that enough. But I don't 100% agree with Adam Wild on that. On that statement, it would be. I think it teaches them a very good lesson if they miss the playoffs, because what they have now and what they had at the beginning of the season are 2 different things. They, for the first time in 4 years, they are being held accountable. They haven't been held accountable as members of the Toronto Maple Leafs, because all the pressure, all the media pressure has been on Babcock, because Babcock's the $6 million coach who's supposed to bring you a Stanley Cup.
Mm-hmm.
No one had ever been talking about the players, and finally, the players on this team, especially Marner, especially Matthews, Matthews, all the young players who hadn't experienced the pain are now experiencing it. And listen, Nylander has been, I think, the most consistent player on this team since day one of the season. Matthews has been struggled at the beginning of the season, picked it up. He's still This is the thing with Matthews. When Matthews is on, he scores tons of goals, and I can see it. I can see that he's trying to learn this defensive end of the game, because I see slight improvements. But the thing with Matthews and with Marner, I see a lot too, is that's on and off, on and off, on and off. You can't do on and off, on and off. You're not going to get far in the playoffs.
He has
that's the thing with this
and
team.
He'll still score 40 goals. Like, that's not his issue. Just like, talk about immaturity. That game against the Flyers, when he said we were bad, when it was single-handedly him who lost that game. Like, if you want to be Austin bleeping Matthews, if you want to be the face of that franchise, if you want to be a real leader, you take the blame. And,
right.
And what he did, saying we, like, dude, no, come on now, like, and he doesn't even need to be good defensively. He just needs to not be a liability.
And I think he's working on that. I really do. Like, if I'm focused solely on him, I think I'd argue that he has been improving over the season. Especially since Babcock was fired, I think it's worked with him. But the next thing for Keefe, and just I want to throw this out there: whoever the hell is saying Dubas should be fired, I think no. I think the next thing for Keefe is he needs to get the mindset of the players that it's 110% every night. Because when the players are going 110%, that's when you get the 15-4-1 stretch.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you get when you put 110% in. And even during that stretch, there were games that they were off. Listen, players are going to have off nights. I'm not expecting them to have 82 perfect games, because I don't think that's possible. I don't think many players have that. I can think of two who have perfect nights every night.
Well, I mean,
so
to be honest, if they put Martin Marincin in the position to succeed, they would win every game.
Stop it. I get you like Martin Marincin, but he's not the answer. That is kind of it. I think if they miss this year, I mean, damn, I don't know what the situation would look like. I think it'd look bad. I think there'd be a lot of changes that would have to be made. I don't even want to address the Nylander situation, because I just think everyone's just saying trade Nylander. I think, okay, what are you getting back for Nylander? That's the first thing that comes to my mind. What are you getting back for Nylander?
Matt Tumba.
If you're getting something of significance back, go right ahead. Sure, trade Nylander. His value is probably highest right now. But if you're not getting back someone who's going to be there for a while, get out of here. Sorry, it doesn't make sense to trade Nylander for Pietrangelo or Nylander plus for Pietrangelo. It doesn't make sense.